The Queen is Dead. By Meep the Changeling. Chapter 28. 310 to Hell. Author's note. Because Google Translate is bad at Japanese when written using Romanji, have a blog post with the translations. http://www.fimfiction.net/blog/581072/chapter-28-translations. Each translated line is numbered in superscript. Just hover over the numbered spoiler in the blog post. Oh, and heads up, this is where things get dark. End author's note. Lily, 26th of Plantation 15 EOH, noon. Today was not a good day. I'd known it wasn't going to be a good day since I had woken up. I was going to have to try an untested spell on one of my friends for the sake of not screwing over literally everyone. What I hadn't known is that casting it would entirely deplete my reserve, and the charge stored in my chain. I was bone dry. If anything went wrong, I was powerless to stop it. I couldn't even use my telekinesis after carrying those tickets back. That had been the last drop. On top of that suddenly appearing guard, dealing with the ticket clerk had been stressful in and of itself. While it's possible to get train tickets in Zeebrugge without an ID, they will interrogate you to within an inch of your life to be sure you're not a threat. Needless to say, my nerves were wearing thin. My nerves were wearing thin while watching David's lower spine for anything abnormal. Swelling, blistering, mange, muscle spasms. Bleeding, oozing. The sheer number of things that could go wrong were horrifying. If I hadn't grafted 3 mice together once and then separated them successfully after a year, I wouldn't have even attempted this. I'd taken the changeling genetic sample I'd procured, namely Jade's old leg, extracted the nervous clusters from it via autopsy, reverse-engineered the biology behind the parts of the tissue which responded to transformation magic, and then with the help of a bucking genius of the field, worked out a spell to create similar nerve clusters and fuse them to a mammal's spinal column as well as patch them into the autonomic reflexes so they would function. And a pony who knows anything about medical science knows that there are a billion ways that can go wrong. A graft from one mammal to another is one thing, but from an insect to a mammal? This wouldn't be the first, but it would be within the first 100 successes if my information was accurate. Not only that, but it was also a transfer of magic-enabling biology, something we had yet to perfect as a species. Not only that, but it was also a changeling's shifting ability, so it was a graft that had to change the rest of the patient's biology, while not changing itself so that he could change back. Despite the terror causing my heart to beat too quickly for my liking, I was 80% certain this would work. At least, for a few months. 30% sure it would be permanent. Hopefully nothing would go wrong before I had my magic back, then I could simply fix it. But if he started rejecting the graft right now? I took a deep breath to calm myself. Take it easy, Lily. He's not in any pain, and nothing looks wrong on the outside. He's fine for now. Just push away the fear and get into the boxcar. I flinched, realizing I had just made a very, very cruel unintentional joke. Ah, bucking hay. David turned around, giving me a concerned frown. What? I just... Bad joke. I said, turning to look at the train yard full of large cars of all kinds. Our train was currently pulled into the station. You could see a few hundred ponies boarding the passenger section. How bad? Jade asked curiously. My brain unintentionally made a joke which you could see as a reference to the Great War's rounding up of. David visibly winced. Oh God. That happened here too? You know what? No, fuck it. We're not having this conversation. Was? Happened here? I asked. Oh Neen. He did it over there too. I said we're not going to talk about this. I want to enjoy being a new species and remember it without having to think about the assembly line style of genocide. David grumbled. He looked off to the right at the station's platform and instantly took to the distraction. Hey look. Samu, wait, actually never mind, that's the least weird thing I've seen here. David exclaimed, switching from excited to confused to normal in the span of a heartbeat. I don't know how his face moved like that. Samurai. Hey, that didn't sound like an Equish word. Why didn't my spell translate it? Oh yeah. I'm out of mana. Right. Crap. Thank goodness I actually know Equish. I looked back over at the soldiers boarding the train. I'd always liked Japanese-styled armor. The chained-together little hexagonal plates and the back and helmet decoration meant to look like wings or a horn for those who didn't have them were really cool. I also liked how each individual got to use a personal coloring for their armor. That was a nice touch. Germain soldiers all wore the same black, and while that is sort of the point of a uniform, the lucky few who are not stark white can look terrible in it. Also Faust help me, but their beam sabers are bucking awesome. Every foal alive wants one, that's how you know something is cool. Take a sword hilt, attach a high-capacity gemstone, and boom, toggleable blade of raw arcane energy. I should totally steal one. I blinked and groaned at the stupidity of my own thought and decided to just focus on finding the oh, there it was. Big red boxcar with the number 126E written on the side. Huge rather, big didn't do it justice. You could make this one boxcar into a house. It even hung a half-normal boxcar's width off the side. As we drew near, I could hear 6 female voices arguing from the interior. Watashi wa anata o it iru, ryashi kes hoji kanatsu ashite imesu. Dirida ryoiki wa shinkansuru hojo e hoji hasi isuru me where wa. Parajamagon o koze suru hitsuyoji arimesu. Superscript 1. The first voice shouted angrily. Parajamapunpyu wa dochira ka dosa shite inanode, sorha, soro suru koto wa dekamasan. Superscript 2. The second shouted back just as angrily. Hey! That's Japanese. David remarked as he walked up to the door. Why am I not surprised to hear Japa? He sort of froze in the doorway. The argument stopped as well. Everything was quiet for a few long moments as Jade and Light nervously started to back up towards the cart. Konnichiwa. Superscript 3. A third voice asked from within the car, confusion oozing from every syllable. Konnichiwa. David returned, voice equally confused. Koto wa, kyode roboto no ponitasu ka. 4. Kore wa, mecha no sutsu no oku wa de. A fourth voice somehow quietly boomed. It was mechanical, reverberating, and clearly female. Porimo kushirokuti koku o kinitsu metakuso kodadiso ka. 5. I.e. David answered still in his confused and stunned tone, but with a foolish delight started to spread across his face. Sor wa watashi no furusato no sifukudasu. Shotamat kudase. 6. He slowly backed out of the entrance, turned around, broke into the biggest grin ever and practically screeched, "They are building a giant robot. Lily! You booked the car with the giant robot. I need to hug you." In the span of half a heartbeat David had covered the 6 meters between us and wrapped me in a bear hug I didn't know a unicorn was capable of. I was lifted off the ground. I swore my shoulders dislocated before he even touched me. A half seconds before I thought my lungs would be squeezed out one of my ends, David let go and cleared his throat. Sorry. But. Giant robot. Right. Let's just look cool and hopefully they will let me touch it. Too late for looking cool, Gaijin. We speak Equish. The mechanical sounding voice giggled. Also, she told you it's a mech suit, not a robot. The second informed with a giggle. David's ears drooped down so far I was actually medically concerned for him. Or I would have been if I weren't trying to get my lungs to inflate. Hi, the first voice said as its owner trotted into view from behind the door, far too late. She was a rather short peach blossom pink unicorn mare. Just the one uniform color. Fortunately her elegantly braided mane at least made her shape distinctive, and the white jumpsuit with the rising sun emblem on the back and butterfly symbol on the barrel definitely helped her look less, well, ugly. Poor mare just didn't get any luck in the looks department. She gave all of us a concerned look and asked, "You booked passage in this car?" I nodded and tried to speak but only managed to wheeze. "Yes," Jade answered, giving me a concerned frown. "Are you okay, Lily?" "Hugged, too, hard," I gasped, finally managing to get my lungs to fill up all the way. "Sorry, childhood fantasy, and stuff," David muttered, running a hoof through his mane in embarrassment. You know, he was really cute as a pony. Well, more like handsome. The cute was all from that delighted gleam in his eyes. We were supposed to have this car to ourselves. Military purposes. The mare grumbled. "Can you take another train? This train should be full." "Well, about that," David said, slowly giving her an apologetic look, "it's sort of massively important that we reach Equestria in the shortest time possible. So no, we kind of need to take this train." The pink mare grumbled something in Nepalese. Pinku-chan, the mechanical-sounding person, called, "Watashi no byuki ga hei terite imesu. Dasora o jite mi mashao. Kara wa nani o okanaba, watashi wa kodo sora o korashimesu. Sor wa watashi ga kono chisana basho ni minagaso koto ga dekane I yodasu." 7. What did she say? Light asked a nanosecond before I would have. The mare turned to face back into the car. "Unchikashi, hoka niwa nani mo sagyo jite imasen." She exclaimed with an absolutely adorable angry hoof stamp. David cleared his throat. "The mare piloting the actual motherfucking giant robot said to let us on because if we do anything to jeopardize their mission she can just kill us since the car is too small for us to seek cover in." "Oh. Well. We could always take another train," Jade and I said together wearily. "Don't worry. If you don't try to steal Imperial secrets you're completely safe," Mech Voice promised. "Well, almost. You would be on a train headed for a soon-to-be war zone." "Yeah, that's sort of why we are going," David said unthinkingly, immediately tail and ears drooping as he realized his error. The train car shook. A loud mechanical whine accompanied the appearance of a massive butter-yellow hoof-shaped armored limb as it pulled the boxcar's door wide open. A huge metal facsimile of a pony filled the entrance, dragging 4 limp legs as it pulled itself into view with a loud scrape of metal on metal. The entire thing looked like someone had taken an alicorn, made it 4 times bigger, and then built a suit of angular armor that fit skin tight for them to wear. It had a mane and presumably a tail of pale pink glowing fiber optic cables, flat blue glowing eyes, and an expression that somehow looked fierce yet shy. The ton of armor plating removed, revealing a complicated series of techno-arcane circuitry, an augmented technology, and a glimpse of the pilot's peach-colored left foreleg did absolutely nothing to alleviate the terror at seeing it suddenly consume the entrance. Its left shoulder plates slid apart, revealing what looked to be a rotating series of spell amps rigged up to, oh dear, that dull red glow and humming didn't seem safe. "Please inform me as to your loyalties for that aforementioned battle," the huge metal thing boomed. "Equestria." Everyone squeaked in unison. An eternity passed. "Good. Climb on in," the massive metal giant said, pushing back into its former position with its working leg. I felt my heart start beating again. From the looks on Evriponi's face, they did too. Except for Jade. She nodded, "Thanks. Can you help with our cart?" I turned to stare at her in disbelief. "Why, you want to ride with that?" "Sure. She's on our side, right?" Jade asked, giving me a confused look. "Why would I not want her close by if the swarm attacks the train?" But that's I babbled, realizing midway through that Jade was completely correct. "Verdammt gut punkt tatsächlich." "You bet your," David squeaked. He put a hoof to his muzzle and cleared his throat. "I mean, you bet your ass it is." "Hi," Gigantier called, presumably in answer to Jade, "on Nanako wa, kara no tame ni kara no kato o shuto koshimesu?" A half-second later and our cart was literally swarmed by 5 mares, each monochromatic, and each the same pink as the first one, and each clad in the same jumpsuit. They didn't look the same, each had their mane and tail styled differently, and all of them much better looking than the first. It took me longer than I want to admit to realize that they were all dyed the same color and not clones. The 5 mares had the cart inside faster than I was able to process their nearly identical coloring, giving me just enough time for an apprehensive gulp and to hop into the car after every pony else before Light asked Soa, "Why's your giant death machine look like Fluttershy?" I slapped a hoof to my face. "How did I not notice that?" I demanded. Now that Light mentioned it, it did look like her. I suppose being foreign I could be excused for not having the exact appearance of one of Equestria's great heroes memorized. Though since she did help save the world about 5 times. As soon as I stopped talking, the robot's pilot leaned down to get on Light's eye level and in the most ironclad zealotous tone imaginable informed, "Furidasama Seiko no Ponitasu." "Hi!" every pony else exclaimed with equal religiously reverent certainty. For those of us that don't speak Japanese?" Light asked with a confused frown. David bit his lip, trying to hold back a laugh and only barely succeeding. "That was Fluttershy's best pony." "Hi!" every one of the engineers echoed again. "So you painted it up like that because you all like her?" Jade asked. I decided to just kind of scoot against the back wall of the train car away from the creepy personality cult. "She is the most refined, polite, and courteous pony to ever live," the first mare said reverently. "She has saved every one of us, not just with her nakama, but also on her own. Twice. Fluttershy is as the proverb of the prefect steel wrapped in the finest silk. No pony else is more worthy to be enshrined in the form of an alicorn suit." "Hi," came the 5-fold echo. "Furidasama Seiko no Ponitasu." "Well, okay then," David said in the tone of a stallion who decided he could totally wait for the next train. Okay. I agreed in the same tone. "Good to know," Light added, naturally in the same tone of voice. "That's pretty cool," Jade announced with a big grin. "We used to forge armor to look like our heroes too." Unfortunately, a piercing whistle broke the air, the train car shook, and began to roll out of the station. At a speed which made jumping out of the train seem far too painful. We were going to be trapped in a small space with these crazy ponies for 3 entire days. Great! David, 3rd of Solaris 15 EOH, sunrise. 3 days. In a 15 by 40 yard box. With 6 otakus. Who built and operate a giant robot. In those 3 days, I learned many things. First, despite sounding like heaven, hanging out with living anime girls, of any species, is hell. Second, ALICORN was an acronym, but it doesn't translate well. Basically you'd call the thing Godmaker powered armor suit. Which is what the thing did. Get the control implant installed in your horn, climb on into the belly, and boom, tech enhances your magic to the power level of an alicorn. At least till the suit runs out of power. Then you have a ton of built-in weapons and are kind of just a normal walking tank. That was awesome. On the other hand, as someone who learned Japanese, I had literally spent 3 days listening to constant technobabble as those 5 crazed fangirls tried to fix the damn thing. All they would say is that something broke while flying in from Napone, thus they had to stay behind and fix it because someone forgot to pack spare parts and Keys had some for sale. That and then constantly bicker and argue about what was wrong and why, all the while never actually fixing the problem. Which had been a fuse. In the right shoulder. It was plugged in backwards. I'd fixed it to make them shut up. It hadn't worked. Because they had spent the entire morning thus far yelling at me for not fixing it sooner. Excuse me for assuming that the trained mechanics wouldn't notice a misinstalled part. I envied Jade so much right now. She had shifted her ears away and just power napped through most of the trip so far. At least it would be over in a few more hours. My god, those 5 literally hadn't slept for a single fucking minute. Oh right, 3. Nepalese soldiers are magically augmented to only need to sleep for 20 minutes a week. Great plan. How about you keep the most irritating people imaginable out of your mill? Oh god, that's why they were relegated to the boxcar, wasn't it? 3. Fucking days. Lily and Light spent the whole time doing their best to zone out and ignore the chaos. Me? No such luck. Fortunately those 5 didn't mind me picking through the spare components they had discarded. Meaning I was able to occupy myself yesterday by building a crude crystal radio. Sure, it was crude by the standards of a crude radio, but with the tech level sitting behind me there would be radio communications, and if we had to cross some badlands, a radio would let us know if anyone was in the area and in what direction they were via the signal getting louder or fainter. It was a neat little thing, and it fit in my jacket pocket nicely. If it ever crackled, we would know we were headed for civilization. A fact I took great comfort in. Mostly because it meant we would be away from civilization, which at the moment was these goddamn incessant mares. I looked over at the junk pile with a sigh. They were still going at it. I really needed something more to distract me. There were still a few bits left over. Perhaps I could magnetize one of those bolts and make a compass out of. My ears stopped working as a dull thud rippled through my body. The train car lurched, jolted up and forward, pitched right, and slammed into the earth. Boxes of parts flew everywhere, bodies tumbled, sparks flew, a dance of chaos accompanied by flashes of light and an eerie ringing. A steel bar smashed into my chest, pinning me to the wall-now floor of the car. Sound came roaring back in one ear, the sounds of sizzling energy and panicked screams flooding in more deafening than the ringing still blaring in the other. 12 holes appeared in a line down the top of the car like someone erased them in Photoshop, leaving behind glowing orange rings of steel and thick blue smoke. My other ear cleared, and the low droning buzzing of a million flying insects filled the space the ringing left behind. That ruled out a train wreck. The best-case scenario had taken a rain check once more. The bar pressing into my chest burned. A quick glance down told me there wasn't any blood, or a real burn. That meant broken ribs. Shit. I gave the bar a shove with my right arm, biting my lip as moving sent waves of pain through my left side. Fuck you, pain. I grunted as I worked my way out from under the bar. Now was not the time to cry over broken bits. It was time to ass the area. Whose an explosion off to my right cut me off. Something huge and heavy slammed into the ground somewhere off behind me, making a loud thud despite hitting the desert sand. Who's alive? I called again, coughing into my hoof and flinching at the blood specks left behind. The interior of the car was a disaster. I could see a few limbs, but if anyone was on this side of the mech, they were buried under rubble. Rubble which shifted and fell as a field of blue light moved upwards. Lily. She'd managed to shield herself and Light. What the buck is ringing? Lily shouted in confusion. Your head. I shouted back, being sure to make my lips exaggerate the sounds. Where is Jade? Under you. Jade moaned painfully. I looked down to find myself standing on top of the poor girl, who was wedged into the corner of wall and floor, upside down, with my hooves pressing into her hip, chest, and neck. I quickly stepped off of her and gently helped her up with a hoof. Sorry. Can you walk? Jade coughed, closed her eyes and shifted the burst of green flames blinding me like a camera flash. I can now. Jade said, now in her normal fluffy body. I think that body was dying. Okay, good. I said, shaking the thought of a dead Jade out of my head as the sound of some sort of energy bolts began to rip through the air. We need to go. Lily shouted as she dropped her shield. The Nepalese won't hold the train for long. No shit. I barked, grab the book. Light, Jade, get a pony-sized hole in this car now. I can't help, ribs broken. What do you mean, the book? The pilot asked, suit shifting slightly as she turned. Awesome. You're alive. I exclaimed, pointing to the wall with a hoof, punch a hole in that please. You're the bait Her Highness mentioned, aren't you? She asked. This time I could hear the wetness in her voice. I knew that sound. Most medics did. That was the sound of lungs filling with fluid. Hi. I answered, giving her a sympathetic look. She shifted, the train car creaking as she moved her hooves beneath herself, then slammed her back into the train car, ripping the steel apart with a deafening shriek. With a mighty heave she threw a huge chunk of the car off into the swirling vortex of changelings outside, twisting and firing a pony-sized beam of red light into the swarm in the same motion. Go. If they get you, the trap fails. I will draw fire. She shouted over the noise. Omis hiri oki o. Furitashi hika bonsai. Superscript 1 degree. She turned, grabbed another shard of train, and flung it like a discus into the swirling masses, 2 panels in the forearms sliding open to spew a torrent of white-hot flames. She got another 3 shots off before vanishing into the wall of spellbolts and changelings. The world outside looked like the sky was made of blue-eyed changelings. The air smelled of burnt meat and sulfur. Even with that suit, she couldn't buy much time. Go go go! I screamed, waving towards a large sand dune in the distance. Beeline, that dune. Move it. They didn't need to be told twice. Lily and Light bolted, blurring together as they shot by. Jade gripped me in her magic and lifted me onto her back. You broke something, right? She asked as she started to run as well, holding me tightly to her with her green aura. Thank you. I grunted, deciding to not tell her that her hard carapace slamming into my ribs as she ran was the 3rd worst pain ever. A wall of green light erupted from the ground. Lily slammed nose first into it, jerking left and sliding down. Light barely skidded to a stop, nose kissing the crackling barrier. Jade spun, nearly throwing me from her back. The barrier surrounded us on all sides. Everything grew deathly quiet. Even the buzzing of the swarm stopped as they landed in mass, forming a solid ring around the barrier. I could see the train in the distance, nothing was moving except wind, smoke, and sand. Lily pushed herself up, groaning, and then yelping as she put weight on her left foreleg, falling back over. The changelings to my left took 1 step right or left, forming a corridor as. Well, we're boned. I muttered. She walked up the changeling corridor like a Gestapo officer. Mechanical, calculated, and oozing a hatred for everything alive. Her carapace was blackened with scorch marks, but still shone like obsidian. Her legs had holes clean through them which could only bring to mind a rotting apple. Her silky green mane and tail fluttered like moth-eaten linen. Her wings like tattered spider webs. It not for the piercing, hair-filled, burning emerald eyes, she would have looked like a walking corpse. But those horrible eyes made her look as if it were you who were dead, as if your body were the one damaged and crumbling. Her eyes showed you her intentions. She walked up to the edge of the barrier, and looked at us the same way my roomie used to look at the feed mice for his snake. You have 2 options, the Demon Queen announced, give me Clover's spellbook and die quickly, or I take it from your desiccated corpses. Lily, I said as calmly as I could manage, burn it. Chrysalis's eyes blazed green, the glow blocking out the snake-like orbs entirely. I felt my entire body stiffen up, like every single muscle cramped at the same time. My ribs ripped into the inside of my chest. I wanted to scream, but not a single part of me would move. So be it. Chrysalis laughed. Let me see how to appropriately punish you for your defiance. She paced the outside of the barrier, vanishing from my sight as my eyes refused to turn. Ah! I see. You're a stray from my swarm. Chrysalises giggled. This will be delightful. Not, changeling. Light growled angrily between breaths. I do so love the way you've broken yourself. What is it? Ah yes, 1 of 30, primary shock trooper of Assault Flight Gamma. Chrysalises cooed in the manner of a child plucking the wings from a fly. Oh! I'm not a changeling. Light screamed, panic shattering her voice on the last word. Return. Chrysalis ordered. The sharp whoosh of changeling fire. Light instantly shrieked in pure terror. I'm not a changeling. I'm not change. Island ch. NNNN. Ch. The sound of something hitting the sand, light scraping, and Light's gurgled attempts at speech broke me in a way the war never had. I willed myself to move with every fiber in my being. I willed myself to jump up, smash through the fucking force field and rip that insect's head off and shit down her neck. I couldn't even blink. Chrysalis inhaled, and giggled, ah! Such a sweet flavor. I hope you recover, my delicious little mistake. Horror is so much better 3 days later. She walked back into view, eyes still burning, lines of green magic slowly knitting the holes in her wings shut. Now then. What to do about a little nymph who thinks she can look all nice and pretty just because she got enough love growing up? A simple spell bolt through your hearts? Yes, you would like that, wouldn't you? Save me from going through the train car by car, hand me the book, and you'll die with some measure of dignity intact. I thought for an instant she would let us speak. Instead she let us stay there paralyzed for a full 2 minutes. So stubborn. Chrysalis cackled, very well then, you love that thing on your back, don't you? Ah! He returns your feelings. How very, fairy tale. It's just too bad our happily ever after will have to come after I have you eat your love alive, deaf to his screams, until he's all gone and you're nothing but a gibbering fool. Too horrified by your own actions to even think for yourself ever again. Mothers wish they could make a child eat like I can. I swore I felt Jade's terror. Faintly, for the briefest of moments, but there nonetheless. No. I refuse to let her do that to you. I will move. Kill. Nothing. Not even a tail twitch. Still, that wouldn't be quite enough torment for him now, would it? Eaten? Quite merciful, don't you think? It's a shame you don't just give me that book. A few pages and some ink, but no, you sit there. You might even say you're paralyzed. Ha ha ha. Chrysalis laughed, rearing up for a second to finish her laugh. Oh yes. Your little mage friend. She mused. I can feel your greatest desire, Colt. It runs so hot through your mind it's a wonder the mud and pony's clothing can't feel it. A lover's touch, care, and affection. Oh you poor dear. I think I have just the thing for you. My swarm is a little hungry after all this pest control, I'm sure you don't mind them using you to get a little snack now, would you? Chrysalis paused for just long enough for me to realize what she meant. Well, I hear no objections. You heard it, my soldiers. No objections. As soon as this barrier falls, feel free to take your turns until it's nothing more than a twitching pile of flesh and fluids. Oh, and lifeless of course. Chrysalis ordered coyly. You unbelievable monster. Absolute, unbelievable, monster. A loud sizzling sound came from over my left shoulder. Chrysalis's head snapped to face it, horn glowing with arcane fire. Get away from her, you bitch. Dusk demanded. Dusk, 3rd of Solaris 15 EOH, sunrise. Buck the rules. Buck the consequences. My friend was not going to be raped to death. I ripped a path to the mortal world, sending a burst of energy before me, vaporizing a hole in the ordered ranks of soldiers. My avatar's fur singed from the heat of my full power radiating from its core. I didn't give a flying buck if I burst into flames. She dies. Now. Get away from her, you bitch. I demanded, gritting my teeth. Chrysalis spun, horn blazing, teeth gritted in a furious deathly grin. A grin which softened as she saw me. Oh yes, he said you would show up eventually. Die. Her horn flashed. Something popped. My hindquarters fell to the ground. I felt something wet beneath. Oh. No, my chest fell to the ground. My hindquarters did not exist. That was fine, I'd just create a new. Oh, I said to myself as I realized I had been pinned to my avatar's form entirely. This half a pony bleeding out in the sands was me. Not a construct I controlled. Me. He'd manipulated me into putting too much of myself into it. That's how he figured he could kill me. Bucking brilliant. Odd, Chrysalises frowned. That should have exploded all of you. No matter, let me just try again. I had seconds. My powers were limited. I was going to die. But my friends were not. I could help them at least. I pushed at reality with the last drop of my power, breaking them free of Chrysalis's control, and throwing them a few hundred kilometers north. I couldn't feel where they went, but it was out of her reach for now. They got away. I said, giving the bitch a smug grin. You've lost. For the moment. Chrysalises agreed in a eerily calm tone. But how many can say they killed a god? Ah, so that was it. Not her plan, but the feeling of dying. I'd always wondered. It wasn't bad. Sort of like sitting into a lukewarm bath. It would definitely feel nicer if I could go wiping that smug grin of her face. Maybe if I spoiled her fun? Nah, screw it. It's my death, may as well cross one more item of the list of lines I'd always wanted to use. If you strike me down, I lied, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Silly god. Chrysalises giggled, I can imagine powerless. Her horn FLA.